I don't consider myself an expert on many things. In fact, I'm pretty mediocre at most stuff that I do. However, people will ask me the one area that I do have a little bit of knowledge on, and that is baseball, baseball players, baseball card collecting, especially minor league players. I like to follow the minor leagues. I worked for a minor league team years and years ago. I wasn't a scout or anything. I was just an official scorer at the ballpark. Along with that, I was in and out of sports card shops as a kid, played baseball, spent hours working on my cards and sorting through my cards. And currently now I sell on eBay. I'm in a lot of these Facebook groups, which is where I've had people often asking my opinion on stuff. So I decided I was going to sit down, because I've had some folks ask, and make my top 10 list for the year going into this season of players that not necessarily going to break out this year, but players that I want to keep an eye on this season throughout the minors, players that are going to, some will make it through this year, but just see where things are going and see certain players that I want to follow. Every year I usually have one or two players that I will invest in. And this is not investment advice. This is just me telling you who I'm going to follow and what cards I'm looking at for those players and stuff of that nature. But every year I have one or two players that I will personally put an investment into. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a hit guy every time. You know, I wasn't on Mike Trout in 2010 or anything. I wasn't on Albert Pujols in 2000. You know, the years before their cards made a big jump. I'm not that type of person. I'll be completely honest with you. I've had cards that I've made money on. I've had cards that I've lost money on. My plan is to give you top 10 guys, at least in this video, that you can jump on, make a little bit of money off of, and then move on, you know, for in the future with some of that money that you've made. I notice a lot of these YouTube videos that people make are more designed to hop on some guy and hold on to him for a long period of time and hope he makes the Hall of Fame and turns into these. I'm not that type of investor. I'm not that type of collector. I'm more get on some guys that are going to make a little bit of a splash money wise versus on the field wise, and hope that somewhere along the way I can get out. I'm not ever going to buy them at the bottom or sell at the top, because that's almost impossible to do on a consistent basis. It's about helping people know when to get out, who to hang on to, you know, who to stockpile up on, you know, stuff like that. And I'm hoping that I can pass along a little bit of the knowledge that I have onto, you know, some other people that may want to know. Because I do watch some of these other videos, and often it doesn't tell you how to get out or when to get out. You know, stuff like that. It just, oh, let's get on this player, and then you end up holding them, and sometimes you miss that prime part of their selling. So I'm going to hope that I can educate some people on that. And again, I'm not saying I know it all or I know anything. This is kind of how I do with cards. And sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's a little bit of knowledge, sometimes it's just, you know, you don't get it right. So I'm not going to waste anyone's time going through here. I'm just going to hop right on the list and get to it. I've noticed when I've made some videos in the past trying to go through this list, which I started in September, that I tend to talk a lot. And so my videos were like 2 hours long, and that nobody wants to be a part of that, trying to break it all down and get into it. I'm just going to give you this list. I can do a longer breakdown video if people want it later on, but I'm just going to get to the list and break down just a simple fact. So number 10 on my list is David Hamilton for the Red Sox. I originally started this list trying to not have multiple players on the same team. However, Hamilton just got traded to the Red Sox in the Hunter Renfroe deal. So it's going to be unavoidable going down the list, because when I started tracking this, he was on the Brewers. Now he's on the Red Sox. But he was drafted in 2019 in the 8th round. He's 5'10", 200 pounds. He's 24 years old. He's on this list primarily because of his speed. I like to every year try to follow a speed guy, just because I find speed fascinating, because it's not something I'm blessed with. So I do like to watch that. Being on the Red Sox has made it a harder path for him to get to the majors. However, he did get invited to spring training this year as a non-roster invitee. So he is at spring training with the Red Sox, which does bode well. He projects kind of as I had him on a 2 to 3 year path getting to the majors, but now it's probably going to be more towards that 3, being on the Red Sox. He stole 52 bases last season in the minors, which led all of the minors. So that's what, you know, kind of put him on my list. But that was his only real season. He had an Achilles injury in 2019, which obviously didn't seem to affect his running. He's projects as an above average defender, mainly due to his speed. He's not a power hitter. He's more one of these slap and grounders, use your speed to get on base type guys, like a Jared Dyson or a Billy Hamilton or something like that. As far as investing goes on him, the only cards that I can really find that would actually be worth investing, I actually bought one a few months ago for about $5, is the 2021 Panini Elite Extra Edition auto. Most of these on this list are going to be autos that I give you. But that's like a $7 to $9 card right now. So you may want to wait, and investing in him, you may want to wait until some of those Bowman Chromes or Bowmans come out, whether it be a Bowman Best or something else that comes out, to invest in him. But it does give you a little bit of time to kind of see what he does, maybe in spring training, see what he does to start the season off before some of the other product of him starts coming out. If he sticks to that 50 stolen base pace each year, or increases, maybe gets up to 60, 75, there may get a little more buzz around him, and those cards may start climbing while he's in the minors. Otherwise, I don't see him as being much more in that year 3 when he gets called up, much more than a backup middle infielder and a pinch runner. So he may be a couple years off the radar for people. However, I do like investing in them, because if he does get up to 65, 70, 75 steals or something like that, then his name's going to be out there, and that card is going to go up. And hopefully it'll be one of those Bowmans later on, which is mainly what I try to stick to. Number 9 on the list is going to be Jose Miranda from the Twins. He plays second and third base. When I originally started looking at the card, which was the one that he has, a 2021 Bowman paper auto, when I originally started looking at that, it was like a $75 card. Now it's up to like $125, $130. The season's rolling now. We're off of the lockout. And he had the benefit of one of the people that was above him, which was Josh Donaldson, had got traded. So now that doesn't necessarily free up a spot for him, but it makes it an easier process for him to get to the majors. He still has Urshela and those guys that came over in the trade ahead of him, as far as Araza at second as well, or Ariza, whatever his name is. He has been in the Twins minor league system for a while. He got signed pretty young. This is the first season that he's had that he put numbers up that were impressive, that were meeting the expectations people had for him when he was originally signed. He is only 23 years old. He's big. He's 6'2", 210. So that may project more to him going over to a first if he packs on any more size. But right now he's second, third. More often. He's played a little first, but second, third. He doesn't have a lot of speed, but he hit 30 home runs last season and 535 at-bats, and he hit 344. Like I said, it was his first year doing something big. I don't know if you can attribute that, and this is going to be the case for some of these players on this list when we get down to it. I don't know if you can attribute it to them just having a lucky season in 2021, or attribute it to the fact that they're growing as a player. Also, you can attribute some of it to the fact that 2020 there was no ball games. A lot of people were working on their swings, working on their defensive skills, working on their base running, had a lot of time to work on stuff and have become better hitters and better players. I don't know on these players whether what that is, if it's going to be one of those 3. I couldn't tell you which one it was. But Miranda did get put on the 40-man roster on November, right before the lockout happened. He got put on the 40-man roster, so he will be at spring training. It does bode well for him having an opening day spot, especially with Donaldson moving out. I don't know how the at-bats are going to play out, but the fact that he can play second and third and first, I don't think he can play shortstop. That'd be a big shortstop. But I think that he can play first, second base. I do think that's going to open up some spots for him if he catches a little fire in spring training, as well as maybe DH some. You never know. So I think him moving forward, what you want to see is either him starting to get everyday at bats, or him putting up huge numbers if he were to go down in the minors and keep that 344 with 30 home runs. That's some big numbers no matter what Most of these guys that I talk about on this list are not going to have major league experience thus far. However, this is going to be one of the 2 on here that does. Rami Gonzalez for the White Sox plays shortstop, third base. He was like an 18th round pick in 2018. He's 6'1", 215. He's 25 years old, so he's a little older on this list than most of these other guys. The only cards that I can find of him so far are 2022 Topps Heritage, other than minor league cards, and don't invest in minor league cards. Even a Michael Jordan minor league baseball card isn't worth what it should be, so stay away from those. But a 2022 Topps Heritage, just a base card. Obviously, if you're going to invest in that card, you want to try to find some of the numbered ones, some of the parallels, things like that. But the base card's about a $1 to $2 card. That's all I can find so far. He may fall in that category like Hamilton, where you kind of want to wait until some of the better product starts coming out of him. The reason that he hasn't been on anybody's radar is because he caught fire last season. I mean, went from single A to triple A to the majors in a matter of months because his numbers were just unbelievable. Again, it's going to fall into that category of had a few seasons under his belt, but then caught fire in 2021, which led to his call up. And I don't know if that's going to be, like I said earlier, what the cause of that is, whether it was just a lucky year or whether it was what they worked on in the offseason or in 2020. He is an above average hitter. He hit 370 in AAA when he got called up to AAA. Last season, his minor league numbers were, he hit 283, had 24 home runs, he stole 24 bases. So he's got good power, he's got good speed. He's been playing third base a little more to help his availability. The problem is that once he got called up to the majors, he struggled a little bit. You didn't get to see, but he only had 32 at bats, so it's not anything I'm worried about. But once he got called up, he struggled a little with the major league pitching, figuring out, which a lot of people do. Plus, the White Sox have a lot of minor league talent ahead of him, as well as talent already in the majors ahead of him. Like Yoan Moncada's there. Tim Anderson plays short. I mean, and they're both signed through 2024 and 2023. Or 2025, so they're going to be there for a couple more years. And they're, Anderson's an all-star, Moncada's has all-star talent. So it's going to be a difficult path for him to get to the majors this season and maybe even next year on a consistent basis. He's already going to be there playing, but I'm saying as a starter. He projects more as like a backup infielder unless he gets dealt in a big trade package or something like that, because he could be a big piece of a trade package. Or if Anderson or Moncada were to move somewhere, which they haven't yet. So right now, this year, I would project him as being a backup infielder, and he may not be able to put up those huge numbers that he did in the minors, but he is somebody that I want to. Next on the list is one of those higher followed prospects, and he's also the second player from the Red Sox, is Nick York. Plays second base, another middle infielder. He was at high A. I don't know where he's going to start this year, but he was at high A. He was a first-round pick in 2020. Obviously, no baseball in 2020. 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's only 19 years old. He hit 325 last year, 14 home runs, 13 stolen bases, only had 378 at-bats. The thing with York is he's just a good all-around player. He's got great contact, hits for a good average, has good power, has good speed. A really good defender. He was selected as a Red Sox minor league player, offensive player of the year last year. He's the number 4 prospect for the Red Sox. So I don't think he's all that far away, but the fact that he's 19 years old and there is talent ahead of him in the majors that will slow him down a little bit. But as far as talent below him, or above him in the minors, there's not a lot. Like Jeter Downs is in his way ahead of him. But Jeter Downs is a good ball player, but doesn't project offensively as high as Nick York is going to be projected as. York can turn into a 20-20, 30-30 type guy, and that'll fit more along the offensive scheme as far as the Red Sox like to have their players. So that's what you want to keep an eye on with him. It may be a year or two, and I know Jeter Downs did get invited to spring training this year, so he will probably be, I assume they'll have Bogarts at short and him at second, and they can swap him if they need to. Both of them can play middle infield, which is where York is at. He's more of a second baseman. I think they're probably going to have Jeter Downs in there as that stopgap for a season or two, unless York just annihilates the ball in the minors, and they've got to get him up there and get that bat in the lineup. As far as cards go, his 2020 Bowman Chrome Draft Auto is the one I would pursue. It's on the more expensive end of some of these cards, and some of them have gone up since I started looking at this and doing the research. It's about a $225, $250 card. If Downs just can't meet the expectations that they have to have that stopgap for a little while, and they really have to start looking at York a little harder, that card's probably going to start going up. And if he gets a call up and starts putting up those big numbers in the minors, that card's going to increase as well. So next on the list is Matt Frazier for the Pirates, who also snuck under the radar last season, kind of like Rami Gonzalez, and just went up pretty quick. And so he does not have a lot of cards on the market. In fact, the only one I could really find was a 2021 Onyx Baseball Extended Blue Auto. They're numbered to 400, but it's like a $5 to $7 card. In fact, I bought one a couple months ago for $4 and change. But Frazier hit 302 with 23 home runs, stole 15 bases, and just kind of brought himself up through the up to AA pretty quickly last year. He was a third-round pick in 2019. The thing that I like about Frazier is he has nice power. He's got pretty good speed. He's a great defensive player. He really only has 1.5 years of minor league experience to go off of. He's a big boy. He has a big frame. It'll allow him to add some muscle and maybe increase those power numbers. During his downtime in 2020, and this is one of the things that I like about him that I actually can pinpoint something, he worked on his swing meticulously, trying to get his contact point at a better spot and trying to use his legs a little more, which helped develop that power. Coming into the 2021 season, he had set a goal for himself to hit 10 to 15 home runs, which was above, where he was at the season before, with these changes. And he surpassed that with his, 23 home runs that he hit. So the fact that he spent 2020, I can point to where he spent 2020 trying to develop that power and trying to develop his swing is something that I can say that he probably didn't luck into it. He worked himself into that. Frazier was Pittsburgh's minor league player of the year last year. He has been playing all different outfield positions to be able to increase his availability and get his bat in the lineup, and he was a non-roster invitee to spring training this year, so he is at spring training with the Pirates. The downside on him is the Pirates do have a lot of outfield talent as far as on their prospect list ahead of him. I don't know. I'm not necessarily going to say they're better players than he is. I'm just going to say he's, they're just ranked ahead of him on a lot of the prospect list. There's about 5 other outfielders in Pittsburgh that are ranked higher, and you do have Brian Reynolds there, but he's a right fielder, and Frazier more projects as a center fielder currently. I would put Frazier in that category of kind of some of these players that I've already covered, to sit and wait until those Bowman Chromes start coming out, things like that. A little bit better rookie autos, because investing in a $7 autograph card, although I did buy one just to have it, is not always the best move, because they're not going to increase much in value despite what the player does. But it may be one of those situations where later on this year, next year, once kind of some of the Brian Hayes madness comes down a little bit, that you can get on the Pirates and some box breaks or things like that for a cheaper price and maybe sneak some of his autos in before he makes a huge splash. Assuming he doesn't do something great in spring training or make the 40-man roster this year. But he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on and see what cards come down the pipeline and see what he develops. Next on the list is going to be Joshua Mears from the Padres, plays outfield. He was in low A last season, the 2019, I think, second-round pick. He's big. He's 6'3", he's 230, he's 21 years old. He hit 244 last year, which is not great. But he had 17 home runs, he had 10 stolen bases, and he only played in 242 games. So he has a lot of power, with the potential to develop into huge power once he gets a little older, once his body starts to fill out. The caveat with that is when players start packing on muscle, and it's going to be the case with some of these other players along the list. When players start packing on muscle to hit more home runs, those steal numbers usually start to come down. So if they've got a little bit of speed, unless they're just great base runners, which some players are, it's not all about speed, it's about great base running. I have one player on the list that's actually a great base runner as opposed to a speed guy. However, once those players start packing on that muscle to hit those home runs, that speed number starts to come down. So it's kind of a give and take on that. And really, you want players that develop into multifaceted. They need to be great defenders, and people will tell you this all the time on these videos, that you need to find multifaceted players that can steal bases, that play great defense, that hit for good average, that hit for good power. That's what is going to make investments in players develop. As far as investments go, 2019 Bowman Chrome Draft Auto, it's a $30 to $40 card in that range. I just got one not too long ago for about that price range. He really only has a year and a half of experience, as a lot of these players are only going to have a little bit of experience without playing in 2020, and I'm trying not to look at older players. His numbers, as far as the power goes, In 2019, he hit a home run every 27.86 plate appearances. In 2021, he hit a home run every 17.12 plate appearances. So you can see that power is starting to grow. His swing may be adjusting a little bit, something like that. The downside of that is his strikeout numbers in 2019 were one strikeout every 3.3 plate appearances, to his 2021 numbers was one strikeout to every 2.55 plate appearances. So as that power number's coming up, those strikeouts are coming up as well. Another thing on his downside is the talent pipeline in San Diego is vast as far as outfielders in the minor league system that project ahead of him, such as James Wood and Robert Hassel. The upside is, as far as their 40-man roster goes on the MLB side of it, they're only carrying 3 outfielders at the moment. I think it's Myers. I think I've got Pro4 projected as an outfielder, and then like Trent Grissom. So there's only 3 guys that are obviously going to have to carry some of these other guys up on the roster when it gets into the regular season. Short of a big trade happening with Myers or something like that, I don't see Mears making it up to the majors in 2022 or maybe even 2023. So I would project him as a 2024, which is fine with him being 21 years old. That'd put him at 23, making his major league splash. With his power numbers, if they keep going up, those cards are going to increase along the way. If he gets a full season in with 400 or 500 at bats and he's hitting 30, 40 home runs, that's going to, despite those strikeout numbers, that's going to make that card already increase in the minors. Number 4 on this list is going to be Jose Siri. He had a September call-up last year for the Astros. He's on the 40-man roster. He'll be on their opening day roster this year. He's one of the older players that I'll be looking at. He's 6'2", 175. He's 26 years old. The card of his that you would be chasing is a 2018 Bowman Chrome Auto. It's about a $20 to $25 card. He hit 318 in the minors last year, 16 home runs, 24 stolen bases. Like I said, got called up at the end of the year, and he was pretty hot when he got called up. Not so much in the playoffs, which I felt was great because I'm a Braves fan. But towards the end of the season, that whole September, he hit 304, 4 home runs, had 3 stolen bases, and was pretty much in there every day and did have a hot bat. So that's kind of the potential you can see with him. As I said, he's got average power, very good speed, solid hitter. The downside with him is the Astros have a very crowded outfield, especially with Myers coming back in the outfield. So the playing time is going to be at a premium for the Astros. Plus, Siri had a kind of a rough time in the Dominican League, which a lot of the players, will continue to play on in the winter, and especially with the lockout going on. He had some issues hitting. I think he was only hitting like 217 last time I looked in the Dominican League. So for him to put up a consistent back-to-back season would be nice to be able to prove it, because Siri, kind of like a lot of these other guys, came into 2021 and had their hot year. And again, it could be because they were developing. It could be because they worked on some stuff. I just don't know. He projects right now to be a backup at center field, Chas McCormick, unless he were to come out and get hot while they're waiting on Myers to come back from his injury. If he were to get hot in spring training or something, overtake that center field position, that's going to help his card go up. If he was playing every day, that's going to help his card go up. I originally started looking at series cards and I bought some of them. They were like $18 to $20 cards. And when he had that hot September, his cards jumped up to like $50, $60 in September, which I actually sold 1 or 2 of them then. And that's kind of to my point earlier, that knowing when to get on these players and when to get out of these players can be very beneficial. It's not about trying to find the next Mike Trout. It's not about trying to find the next, whoever. It's about knowing when to get out of these players or when to get in on them early. So number 3 on this list is actually the player that I'm most excited to see play and to see how his career develops, because I feel like he has the most potential to turn into one of those big players. He's actually the player on this list that I was discussing earlier that is a great base runner, not necessarily reliant on his speed. It's Zach Veen for the Colorado Rockies. He plays outfield. He actually did get a non-roster invitee to spring training this year for the Rockies. So he's already on a lot of people's radars. His cards have increased in price since I started following him. The cards you're going to be looking for him is a 2020 Bowman Chrome Auto. It is on more expensive end. It's about a $290 to $325 card. When I first started getting his stuff, it was about a $115 card. So already, he's turning a big profit as far as an investment would go. But I'm not getting rid of any of this stuff. I've actually bought some more at these higher prices just because I do think he's going to develop into something. He had 399 at bats. He hit 301, 15 home runs, stole 36 bases. He started off the year kind of slow and worked all throughout the year to develop his swing, to correct his contact point, to become a better hitter and recognize pitches. So in the second half of that season, after those adjustments, he developed into a really good hitter. I don't know if he's a slow starter, and that may be beneficial as far as investment goes. If he were to start off the season in the minors and start off slow, his prices of his cards may drop a little bit, may give you a lower entry point. Or I don't know if it's because of those adjustments he's now developed into just that type of a hitter. This is kind of some of the question marks that you're going to have. He is one of those players that can pack on a lot more size, being 6'4", being a bigger player. He can pack on, but because of the fact that he is a great base runner, just his base running ability, not his speed, although he does have nice speed, his base running ability will allow him to keep those stolen base numbers up as those power numbers go up and as he packs on a little bit of size. I don't think he's going to get huge. Playing center field, you don't want to be a 250-pound center fielder, but he can pack on some more power and still keep those speed numbers up there, which is rare. The reason I say center field for that is the fact that the Colorado Rockies have, Charlie Blackmon in right field for, I think he's got an option for 2023. So at least for the next 2 years, they should have, Blackmon in right field, which is nice. His wife is quite lovely. I've met her a couple times, as well as her mother, and they're very lovely people. So I'm glad they'll be staying in Colorado, which I'm sure that they enjoy. If Veen were to get hot in spring training and they just had to find a spot for his bat, or if Blackmon were to get dealt somewhere, it would be very beneficial for his card, and that would be one that I would be keeping an eye on to keep climbing. If he puts up big numbers in the minors again, if he stays hot all season long, his cards are just going to keep climbing, and he's going to keep going up the scale. So that's something I would keep an eye on. Number 2 on the list is going to be Anthony Volpe, however you say it. I don't know. I'm not big on player pronunciation. You should have heard me announcing games at spring training sometimes when our PA announcer wasn't there. Aesop Choi gave me a whole lot of difficulty, one of the games that I had to do. Don't count on me for correctly saying people's names. I had to go down and ask the manager of the Daytona Cubs several times how to pronounce a couple of his players' names when Aesop Choi was there, which I believe is the correct way to say it, but probably not. Either way, so Volpe is 5'11", 180 pounds. He's the Yankees' #1 prospect. I mean, he's one of the highest minor league prospects out there. Everybody knows his name, even if I can't pronounce it properly. He stole 33 bases last year, hit 27 home runs, and he hit 294. He's really only had a season and a half in the minors. This is 2019. I think he had mono or something like that, so only played in like 34 games. He walks a lot, which is good, especially for stealing bases. He plays second, short, somewhere in that range. He's in high A. I don't think he's going to be there long. There is a lot of talent ahead of him as far as people that have been in the system longer that are playing in AA and AAA and stuff like that, but I don't think there's any talent that's better than him. I think if he comes out hot this season, he'll fly through the minors, and he may get a September call-up this year, but I don't really project him being anything short of a 2023 opening day roster spot. Cashman has said that shortstop is a spot that they're trying to identify some help at, and I know a couple of the shortstops that were out there as far as free agents go have already been signed. So that it makes the fact that they're probably going to have to stick with Torres at short or Peraza, who they had last year for a little while in there, because Correa's gone, moving to the Twins. And just as I am recording this video, we're going to have to go back and retrack some stuff. I won't go back and redo the video, but we're going to have to go back and retrack some stuff because Story just signed with the Red Sox about an hour ago as I'm making this. So that's going to change the David Hamilton and Nick York projections slightly, but not really. They're still projecting where they're still going to project of moving stuff around. However, that does change the path for them a little bit as far as people being ahead of them, because now they're going to have Trevor Story to deal with at shortstop, which means they're probably going to move Bogarts to second. That does make it an easier process for Volpe to get to the Yankees without them acquiring a new shortstop, in that offseason trade. And next year could be a whole different thing, or further on down in the season when people start dumping their players, it may be a different story. But that makes it a little easier for him to get up there. He does play a little second base, but I don't think LeMahieu is going anywhere. And if Torres gets hot, it's going to keep him from moving up as quickly into the majors. The card that you're chasing on him is a 2020 Bowman Chrome Auto. It's a $675 to $750 card, so it is pretty expensive. The caveat on that, as far as the investment goes, is there is I believe a Mojo Auto that is about a $275 card. That's not the one you want to get. You don't want to get that Mojo. I don't know if it's out of retail or what it's out of, but it is a lesser card. You want to get that 2020 Bowman Chrome Auto. The Bowman Chrome Auto, the Mojo one is a mega. I think it's in the megas. The one you want to get is the one of him batting, not the one of him fielding, of 2020 Bowman Chrome. That's my hint. That's my tip on that. You want to get the one of him batting, not the one of him fielding. So that's the card you want to go after. But again, that's a very expensive card to get in on. So maybe if you're looking to get in on a player like that a little cheaper, you may want to get into that Mojo card. But again, I've got him projected as, 2020, late 2023 coming up, especially if they get somebody in the offseason, or 2024 opening day roster type stuff. But if he keeps putting up numbers like that, they're not going to be able to keep his bat down there for long. Even with what's that kid's name, Andrew Velasquez, I think, was that everybody loves in New York, because I think he's from the Bronx or something like that. Even with that, I don't think that's going to keep him down, especially if he's putting up those numbers. All right, so number one on my list is MJ Melendez. He's a catcher for the Royals, which doesn't sound like he's got a lot of prospect with Salvador Perez being there. However, he has started playing a few other places. He can DH, although Perez does not want to DH and does not want to split time behind the plate, which that man can play wherever he wants if he's going to hit like he hits. But MJ Melendez last year hit 288. He hit 41 home runs. He's just a solid hitter. He's got huge power numbers. Drives in runs. He's got a cannon behind the plate. So, for him to catch would be nice. He does throw out a lot of base runners. He was one of those players that in 2020 worked on his swing. In 2019, he struck out once every 2.54 plate appearances. In 2021, he struck out once every 4.62 plate appearances. So that helped him get that average up, helped him get those home runs up because he was getting better pitches and waiting on better pitches. Like I said, he throws out, and in 2019, he threw out 60% of the guys that ran against him. So he's got a cannon behind the plate. But like I said, he's been playing some third. He can play some first. Obviously he can DH. Downside with him is that he does have a smaller frame for a catcher, and the fact that Perez is there. Like I said, Perez caught 124 games in 2021. That really only leaves 38 games for somebody else to catch. Now Melendez did get on the 40-man roster, so he's at spring training. He's going to be on their opening day roster, but he's probably just going to be a backup catcher. As long as they got Perez, as good as Melendez's bat is, he's not going to take time away from Perez. So they're going to have to find other places for his bat, which they're going to do because he can hit. I would look for them to use him at DH, try to use him at third some. Dozier's at third, but his bat does not project as well as Melendez's bat does. Melendez could play some outfield. They were talking about that, put him in right field, but I don't see that, at least not right now. Maybe down the road, maybe get him a little practice there. I don't know. But with his bat and the numbers he can put up, I don't know if this year he's going to pop up on everybody's radar as the huge power guy that he is, but maybe the year after that, if he's getting consistent 500 at-bats a season, he could put up huge power numbers. The cards you're going to be chasing on him is a 2017 Bowman Chrome auto, which it's a refractor. He doesn't have any autos that are not in the refractor set, so it's only numbered 499 plus the parallels, things like that. The card runs you about $115 to $125. I just got one last week for like $120. I have a green one as well, like a number to 99. So Those are going to be the cards that you're looking for him. The benefit of that is the fact that there's not a lot of them as far as the autos go for scarcity's sake. I mean, he does have bases and stuff like that, but as far as the autos go, being a refractor only and a parallel only, it does help the value. That's going to be my list of the 10 guys I'm going to be following for the next season or two. Some other guys may pop up on my radar. I'll follow these guys and their prices and their numbers along the way, and then keep everybody updated. My tip for people that I'm going to give you as far as when you start investing in cards and start looking at when players are hot or when they're small is to join a fantasy baseball league. I've done it for years, since I used to have to send my picks into a newspaper for basketball and for baseball, and they would adjust it weekly to the Orlando Sentinels, where I would send my stuff. So I would say join a fantasy baseball league. Keep an eye on the hot trends. Keep an eye on the players that you want to see. Keep some people on the watch list, because as those players show up on hot trends lists, as they start showing up on Sports Center, that's when their card values are going to start to go up. And being in some of those fantasy baseball leagues, whether it be a free one or a paid one, being in some of those fantasy baseball leagues, you're going to see when players are getting ready to be called up. You can see when people start adding folks. You can see, hey, that guy's probably coming up soon, if people are starting to add them kind of out of nowhere. And it helps with investment purposes, because once it starts showing up on people's radars for fantasy baseball leagues, it's not far behind, and it may have already shown up in the investment part. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I can make a longer video if people are more comfortable with that, if they want to sit there and watch an hour-long video where I break it down a little more, but I think I kept it pretty short on this, at least as short as I can. So hopefully we'll get some more content like this moving forward, and you guys just let me know what you want to hear and what you want to see moving forward.